Greetings, Cap fans, and welcome to episode 175 of the Captain America Comic Book Fans Podcast. I'm your host, Rick Verbanis, and as always, I am joined by Bob Lucius. He's the best gosh darn co-host out there. Oh, Bob. Dance. Go rush a speaker that booms. I'm killing your brain like a poisonous mushroom. Deadly. When I play a dope medley. Anything less than the best is a felony. Love it or leave it, you better gangway. You better hit bullseye, the kid don't play. And if there was a problem, yo, I'll solve it. Check out the hook while my DJ resolved it.
Nice,
Bob,
man.
go ahead, Bob. Take it. Take it.
Oh, I don't know what comes next.
Come on. Ice, ice, baby.
Oh, there it is. There it
Dum,
is.
dum, 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 dum.
Yeah.
Ice, ice, baby.
Yeah. Nice. Very good. It
Ah,
reminds. Oh, that first of all, nicely done.
Thank you.
Nicely done. Yeah.
Thank you.
I got the hook. I understand. I understand what's going on there. Nicely done on a second level.
Oh, yeah, of course. There's multiple levels here because
Yeah.
I'm killing your brain
Yeah.
like a poisonous mushroom.
Mm-hmm.
Deadly when I play a dope melody. Anything less is best is a felony. And then there's even a mention of bullseye. I mean, it's great.
Right? It is perfect. It's like perfectly set up for it.
What's the name of the song, Bob?
Is it Ice Ice Baby?
It is.
Yeah.
Who sings it?
Vanilla Ice?
There you go.
Yeah. Yeah. A true American treasure right there. Vanilla Ice.
Let's go with that.
Yeah.
And because today, Bob, we are covering Captain America 373, which happens to be part 2 of Streets of Poison, like a poisonous mushroom. And so I went with the low-hanging fruit of Ice Ice Baby, considering the poisonous drug that's on the streets is named ice. And so if you are listening to this and you missed episode 170, go ahead and put a pause on this and go back and listen to episode 170, because that's Streets of Poison part 1. And we're doing this. This is a 7-part story. I think last episode I may have said, is this 5 parts? And you're like, yeah. And I went back and was like, oh no, it's 7 parts. Anyway, so we got this for the next, after this, 5 more months. So the second Wednesday every month, we're going to knock out the next portion of Streets of Poison.
All right. I like that. I like it. Man, it reminds me of a conversation I had with my son this morning, because we were coming back from his basketball game. Casey was driving. I was in the passenger seat. Bobby's in the back seat. And he's like, you want to hear some music? And we're like, oh, okay. Because we're listening to 80s on 8 on Sirius, right? And he started playing his music.
And you're like, yes, we are listening to music.
Yes, I know. So we had a big discussion about what makes music quality, what makes the difference between classic and nostalgic.
Okay.
Which
I can't wait to hear this.
Not everyone will agree on it, I'm sure. But like for me, I was, let's go back a day, coming back from basketball practice, I guess on Thursday. And there was a song, I think it was Yes, Owner of a Lonely Heart.
Oh, very nice. Yeah. Was that like 1985?
Yeah, they're about 45, right? Okay. Not a great song. And I'm explaining about it. I'm like, he's like, why? This is not a good song. And I'm like, yeah, it's not a really great song, but it's a nostalgic song. Mm-hmm. And it's nostalgic. And I went on to explain to him that like back in the 80s when MTV first came out and became popular, they played music videos all the time. And so people remember songs that they remembered the videos. And if the videos were good and the videos were popular, no matter, even if the songs weren't that good, the songs became, popular.
Right.
The video drove the popularity of the song.
Oh, video killed the radio.
Yeah, there you go. The Buggles, right? So I was, sort of explaining this to him, and that, another reason that sometimes songs are nostalgic is because we remember where we were when we heard them. Music, like scents, smells can elicit these deep-seated memories.
Totally.
Right? But that's different than a classic. Like a classic song is just, it's at a different level, right? It's memorable because it introduces new themes, or a new type of composition, or it's just I don't know, there's something different about a classic. So often I just use that term all the time,
like Phenomena.
Phenomena.
Phenomena. Do, 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 do.
Oh, there you go. There you
Phenomena.
go.
Do,
Yeah.
That's a classic.
Right. So like
Right.
open, like
No,
Open
that's
Arms
totally is not.
by
That's
Journey
the other
is a
way.
classic, right?
Wait a minute. You just said it was nostalgic.
No, Journey, Open Arms. Like,
I will go with nostalgic.
Really? I think those are classic 80s songs, right? Whereas, a lot like Tony Basil, what was it?
Mickey. Oh, Mickey, you're so fine.
Right?
Yeah.
Right.
One hit wonder.
Nostalgic, right? Not a classic. Nostalgic. So,
so you're talking to a guy. Ready for this?
Yeah.
I wasn't a Journey fan. I was counterculture back then in middle school. And I was like, I don't like his voice. It's too high.
Oh my God.
So I was one of those guys that I couldn't stand Journey. I couldn't stand gosh, what was the other one that was around that time that was a high voice? Foreigner.
Foreigner,
Air Supply.
I want to know what love is.
Yeah, I just didn't get into them. Later on, I could appreciate them, but at the time, nah. So it's not nostalgic for me.
All right.
And I certainly
that's it though, right? Nostalgic, different for everybody because we all have different experiences. So, but he's playing his music, and I'm like, dude, no, I'm sorry. This may be nostalgic for you in 30 years, but it's not going to be a classic because all it is bad words. Like a guy like saying bad words. And he's not even singing it. He's just talking it, right? And it's indistinguishable. So you may remember it from a good time and that song was playing, but it's not going to be a classic. I'm like, he's like, well, people have been doing this for a long time. I'm like, yeah, but when Eminem did it, or, some of the early rappers, were doing it, like it was all new. People like, oh my God, he just said the F word.
Like Vanilla Ice.
Well, sure, yeah, the white dudes, right? But I'm like, that was new, right? When like those guys were swearing in songs, right? People were like, they were local district attorneys like charging them with that stuff because it was so new. And
remember when they put labels on the album covers?
Yeah, right. I had my
parental discretionary or whatever.
Right.
Yeah, I was not upset about that back in the day.
No.
Maybe if I was a kid that was trying to get an album and I couldn't because it had that on there, I would have been like upset, but I wasn't upset. I was like, I'm like a mid-teens, and I'm like, absolutely, I don't want young kids hearing this stuff.
Yes. Right. Yeah.
I was uptight back then.
I got interviewed. I think I was in high school. I was probably 10th grade. I don't know, maybe even like 9th. I don't know. I was walking down the street one day in the city of Lowell, which is right next to the town I grew up in. And there's an adult bookstore there called Tower Books. And I got accosted by the local newspaper who asked me, man on the street, what do you think about Tower Books? Should they be allowed to sell smutty books? And I said, and there's a picture of me in the newspaper with the quote, they can sell whatever they want. This is America.
Whoa, look at you.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Look at you. Now, that takes me back to when
my mother was like, what?
I graduated. I'm sure that was a conversation at dinner that night.
Oh, it was, yeah.
I graduated high school, and me and my best friend decide to do an all-nighter and drive a couple of hours to go to Manhattan. And I had never been before. I don't think he's ever been before. And we get there, and we did. It was like the first all-nighter of my life. I'm 17 years old, right? Because I hadn't, like, I turned 18 in October, so I was an early high school graduate. So we're there, and we're tired and whatever. And I'll never forget this. I must have had the I'm a tourist look on my face, right? Because I go up to this police officer who is sitting on the biggest horse I've ever seen. And he's up there, and I'm lost. I'm looking for something. And I go up there and I say, excuse me. And before I could say the next thing, he looks at me and goes, you can't get there from here. And I was like, and the look on my face reacting to that must have been priceless. Made this police officer's day, because he looked at me, he was like, where do you need to go? He must have felt bad with the look of shock,
Yeah,
disdain
dismay. Yeah.
on my face.
Oh, that's
But
awesome.
anyway, it leads me to the point was we actually end up going into this bookstore in downtown Manhattan, and it's set up like any Walden's books kind of theme, right? They have their rows with their bookcases, and then they have these little displays in the center of the aisle with a whole bunch of books piled there. Anyway, I go to this book, this center thing, and they had hardcover books that had all kinds of graphic is pornography. It wasn't just nudity. It
Yeah,
wasn't like,
right.
here are
Yeah,
nudes. No, it was
right.
pornographic.
Yeah.
And I'm a 17-year-old.
Was it artful pornography?
I I don't know what art is, but I know what I like.
Yeah, that's right.
But anyway, so I open up and I'm like, what? Now again, 17-year-old male, pre-internet.
That's right. Yeah.
So, and you know what my first reaction was,
Kids
Bob?
these days have no idea.
Or maybe it was my second reaction.
Yeah.
Was this is out in the open. Little kids can see this. So if I was on that street and the man on the street interview came up to me, I would have been like, well, as long as they keep the little kids out, I don't care.
Oh my goodness. That's awesome.
Going back to that owner of a lonely heart, if I remember correctly, because I might have been like early high school when that song came out. So now that I think about it, you're right. It was probably like 83, 84. It was off the album 90125. And the only reason I remember that is because it was interesting that they named that album after the barcode that was assigned to it.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So they didn't have a name for the album, and then it was assigned a barcode, and they're like, you need to come up with a name for the album. And they looked at the barcode and were like, 90125. and also the other thing too is I don't think it was the original members of Yes. Like the original guys, from the 60s and 70s. I think this was like it was the drummer from Yes.
Yeah, right.
And the other people, what was it? Anderson, Bruford, Wakeman, and Howe?
I have no idea. No idea.
It sounds like a law firm, but
yeah, it does. Yeah.
Yeah, they gosh, I'm going to get this messed up, but I believe like they didn't retain the rights to the group Yes, so they went on to form an album, and they called themselves Anderson, Bruford, Wakeman, and Howe. They're the four last names.
Yeah.
And then I think the drummer from Yes kept Yes, and then he formed a new band with a singer that sounded like the original singer.
Yeah.
And so that owner of a lonely heart is that band.
Wow.
Now later, I think they all kind of, and I only know this because I have a friend who's a huge Yes fan, right? Mm-hmm. And I think later they all got together and toured. The old band and the newly formed band, and they all formed together, and they went touring probably like in the 90s or something like that.
Yeah.
And probably made a crap load of money.
Probably so. Probably. Yeah. Rick, do they have speaking of law firms, do they have commercials for Morgan and Morgan where you live?
I've heard that name before. I don't watch TV, so I don't I stream stuff, so I don't get commercials, so I don't see the commercial. But I've heard that before.
Yeah, it's a huge. They're commercials all the time on TV down here, and I thought it was just a Florida firm, but apparently it's a national wide firm because I've seen ads in Chicago, mm-hmm. I've seen them in Boston, I've seen them elsewhere, and it was funny. I read an article about the guy who founded Morgan and Morgan, the elder Morgan, and he's thinking about running for governor of Florida, and he's not what I expected, based on having just been saturated in his commercials since I moved to Florida in 2017. Apparently he's a Democrat and he wants to legalize weed. And he's just swears all the time. That's
not the preconceived notion I had of a lawyer.
I know, because on the commercial, they're a personal injury law firm, and they're biggest apparently
ambulance chasers.
Yeah, biggest in the country. They made billions and billions of dollars, and he, you always see him in a suit in the commercial, and he looks, like he would be like a billionaire, lawyer, but yeah, it's really a very interesting character. He's quite a character. So,
I when I live in New Jersey, I grew up in Delaware. I visit my mom pretty frequently, and I drive through Philadelphia. And so, um, if you look at the billboards off of I-95 in
mhm.
Philadelphia, you would think Philadelphia is the injury capital of the world. I swear to God,
Sure,
90%,
yeah,
it seems like 90% of the billboards out there are all about injury lawyers.
yeah,
Now, this could be in every major city, throughout the United
yeah,
States, but I only drive through Philadelphia, so I don't know. But to
yeah,
me,
yeah,
it's like, dear Lord, I mean, like it's one injury lawyer after another. I'm pretty
right.
sure I probably saw a Morgan and Morgan billboard.
Undoubtedly, yeah, they're everywhere. So, all right, keep your eyes out for John Morgan.
I don't think so.
Yeah, interesting dude.
Hmm. So I got a funny story, Bob. We're recording this on a Saturday, which is off our normal schedule because we're
Mhm.
trying to play catch up. And I didn't prior to when we started recording, I remembered 45 minutes before. And because I was so busy this morning,
Mhm.
like I got
Mhm.
people coming over the house tonight. I got to clean the house. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. I'm getting together various things. And I was like, I should probably put down make a to-do list for today because I'm the kind of guy who likes to make a to-do list just so I can
Mhm.
cross things off.
Yeah.
And I am mentally going through my head and I was like, oh yeah, because I gotta edit this week's podcast. I gotta get ready for the JMS interview. I gotta read these things. And like, oh crap. We're recording in 45 minutes. I
Yeah.
am not prepared at all. I haven't read the comic. I haven't gone through and made my notes. I
Mhm.
haven't come up with my hello to you. I haven't done any of that. And so the first thing that came into my head was Ice Ice Baby. I was like, again, low hanging fruit. I'm like,
Yeah.
but then I read the lyrics. I was like, oh, this is perfect. And
Yeah.
then, yeah, but I'm,
But
I'm good to go, man. I'm ready.
but you had time to pour yourself a beer from your kegerator.
I did, because it's not quite 5 o'clock. And so, but a beer in the afternoon
I
is
don't know how you
okay
do
on a
it.
weekend.
Honestly, if I had a beer at noon, knowing that I had company coming that night, I'd be asleep. I'd be asleep by 2:30.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it put me right
Lightweight,
out. Put me right out.
lightweight. No,
Yeah,
I mean,
I am.
yeah, I'll sit on a Sunday and have a beer in the afternoon watching the Eagles game or something like
Yeah,
that. And so I wanted, we record. Sometimes we have adult beverages. So
sure.
I
Yeah,
pour myself a beer. I pour
yeah.
myself I do. I have a kegerator here in the basement, and I pour myself a Modelo.
Nice, nice. Modelo, Rick.
It is it.
The top selling beer in the United States.
Yeah, right.
It is. It is. I mean, you may not be aware of that, but there was that whole dust up about Bud Light and the protests and boycott and all that.
Hmm.
And apparently, Modelo overtook Bud Light as the most popular beer in the United States in
So
all
not
the league.
Millard Light, not Coors Light, not any other American beer. You're saying
Right?
a Mexican beer overtook Bud Light as the number one selling beer. All right. All right. I'm gonna have to get
Saying.
some fact checks on
All
here.
right.
All right.
Yeah.
Listeners, can
Bring in
you
the
please fact
staff.
check Bob?
Can we get the staff? Get the staff in here. Oh, we don't have any staff, so
Yeah.
all right. Yeah, we'll have to rely on the listeners.
Well, see, I'm actually drinking Modelo. I don't normally. I'm normally having the kegerator. I usually have like Corona Premier over the last couple
Mm-hmm.
of years. Prior to that, I
Yeah.
had Corona Light. Because those are my preferences on Mexican beer.
Yeah.
And they during the pandemic, I couldn't get Corona Light anymore
Yeah.
because the problem that the beer manufacturers were having was they weren't getting empty kegs back during the pandemic. So they
Sure.
ran out
Yeah.
of kegs.
Yeah.
And so it was hard to get that. So I started like getting some different things in there. And then they stopped doing Corona Light kegs. Our listeners don't care about this. But I then went into Corona Premier and I mean, it's like calories, I don't feel nearly as bad. And the other
It's
thing too about having kegerator, I could just like pour 6 ounces, 8 ounces, and like, it's like, oh,
yeah.
I'll just have a little bit, you know what I mean? And
They'll taste
as
it.
opposed to opening up a bottle, or
Right.
12
Now,
ounce.
this is just a technical question, Rick, because my background is in kitty litter. So when you buy a keg of Corona Light, does it weigh less than a regular keg of Corona? Because if I buy like a bucket of kitty litter, they have light kitty litter now, and it actually weighs less.
Does it really?
Yeah, same size bucket, but it weighs less.
No, the keg doesn't weigh less, but I weigh less.
And that's what's important. Good point. Yeah.
Yeah. So
interesting.
Anyway, yeah.
Corona, huh?
Yeah, I like Corona. You got a problem with Corona?
No, well, I'm just, I think, many people are surprised that Modelo is more popular than Corona. But,
I am very surprised.
Yeah,
I would think Corona would be like the top selling Mexican beer.
Well, I think it sells a lot in some areas and some demographics, but I just don't think, it's as popular maybe among some demographics. They see it as maybe a little bit more of a, coastal elite beer, or,
I feel like there's something you want to say here, Bob, that you're trying to you're pussyfooting around.
No, I mean, I think, any beer you got to put a wedge of lime in, to like complete the picture, I think maybe is not going to be a high seller among some folks. So.
Are you saying that I don't prefer a manly beer, Bob?
I'm not saying that.
It sounds like that's what you're saying.
But others might. So
if I put a lime in my beer, all of a sudden I'm less manly than men who don't put limes in their beer?
Well, it's look, it's not like one of those little paper parasols.
I'm not against that.
Okay.
I'll put my pinky up. I don't care.
Put all that stuff up. So yeah, it surprised me that Corona wasn't the most popular selling beer in America, and that Modelo, which is not as well known. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I've had Modelos before, and I enjoy Modelo. I love Corona. Corona is a great beer. But it surprised me that Corona's been around for a long time, been popular for a very long time.
So when I go tonight, because before we're hosting people over at the house, we're actually going out to meet at a Mexican bar, and it's a BYOB, and I'm going to be bringing bottles of Corona Light, and then I'm going to be asking the waitress or waiter, can you bring some lime? So you're saying that other members of the restaurant would be looking at me and going, I'll be getting judged. Is that what I'm hearing from you, Bob?
Is it a Chi-Chi's?
No.
It's
not a chain. It's a local, individually owned. Yeah, I try to support the locals as opposed to the chains.
That's good. I miss that. I miss having local Mexican joints.
Do you know what Chi-Chi stands for in Spanish?
No.
Yeah, you should look it up.
Look it up. All right, that sounds interesting.
Yeah, it's actually a slang. It's a slang.
Is it really?
It is.
It's a Mexican restaurant chain, and they used a slang word.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Huh,
yeah, you should totally look that up.
All right, I will.
You should do that on your work computer.
Yeah. Oh goodness. All right. Well, anyway,
should we get to today's comic, Bob?
We probably should. Yeah.
All right. So as I mentioned before, we are covering Captain America 373, and it is Streets of Poison Part 2. All right, Bob, I know you love when I do the solicitation, so I should go ahead and do that?
Oh, absolutely.
All right. You ready? It's a whopping, it's a whopper of a solicitation. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right, here you go. Captain America goes berserk. The result could mean the death of Diamondback. That's it.
Wow, that really sucked me in.
I'll tell you what would suck you in. And that is the cover. Now, the cover is by Ron Lim and Danny Belandi. You want to take the listeners through the cover? Because that would suck me in.
All right, well, I'll do my best, Rick. So we are on a rooftop somewhere, likely in New York City. We see tall buildings rising in the background, and we see in the foreground, standing on the roof of one of these tall buildings, Captain America, and he's looking up with his arms spread wide, with a look of shock on his face, because high above him in the air we see a tussle going on.
Ooh, do tell.
Yeah, there's a tussle, and we see a Black Widow who is swinging into the scene, and connecting with her extended legs into Diamondback, who is on top of a sky cycle high above Cap. And so, we don't know what happened here. We don't know how this situation came about, but we know that Cap is shocked by the whole series of events that's going on here. And I definitely want to learn more what's going on. But an interesting feature of this cover is down in the lower right-hand corner.
Oh, no, Bob. We are not skipping over the Black Widow versus Diamondback. Can we get into more detail, please? Perhaps maybe what they're wearing.
Well, all right. I guess, yeah, that's probably a lot of folks might be interested in that. So Black Widow is wearing a skin-tight gray bodysuit. And she's got her short, fiery red hair in this particular look. And then Diamondback is wearing.
Now, hold on. Let's go back to Black Widow. So you're right. It's the gray skin-tight bodysuit, but you left out the most distinguishing part of the suit is that little pointed collar that goes up behind her.
Oh, like the very vampire-like collar.
Yeah. So now I think listeners get it, right? Like they know which because that's classic Frank Miller Daredevil looking uniform. She got the the bracelets on, and then she's got the little Black Widow and black insignia up on her right side of her chest. Right. Yeah. All right. You may go on.
All right. And so then we also have a beautiful Diamondback who is on the sky cycle, caught unawares by Black Widow. And she's wearing her, her classic, like tight pink bodysuit.
Would you classify it as skin tight, Bob?
I would. I would classify it as skin tight, although, a lot of it is obscured by Black Widow's legs in this particular scene.
Unless you're a hip guy or a breast guy, then those are out there.
They really are. Thank you, Ron Lim. And yeah, so she's got her little diamond darts in their quiver around her upper thigh. She's got
almost like a garter belt.
Almost like a garter belt, yeah, a thick garter belt with diamond darts, and she's got her little domino mask on, which is always a sexy look.
Oh yeah, because you can't tell who they are with that.
Yeah, it's a surprise, right? Yeah. I mean, it's the best of all disguises. Yeah.
And I like the logo they use. It says the Black Widow versus Diamondback, but I like the logo.
Right. Yeah. So different fonts for Black Widow than are used for Diamond.
Yes, and then the O is replaced with an actual diamond on standing up on its tip.
Yeah.
All right, you may proceed now to the part in the bottom right corner you were so excited to get to.
Yeah, so in the bottom right corner we see I'm gonna a shameless plug here. It's a round circle inset that is roughly the same size as a What Would Cap Do challenge coin. And in that inset, we see the face of Bullseye.
I am taking my What Would Cap Do challenge coin and I am placing it on the cover of 373. Okay. Not even close, Bob.
Really? It's not roughly the same size?
That's how close.
I hedged my bets.
No, not even close. I'll put it to you this way. The coin would just barely cover the Black Widow versus Diamondback Starburst.
Ooh, okay. Well, here's the thing. Rick, now, since I brought up the coin, well, check out my new purse, my coin purse.
It's leather or pleather? It's probably pleather.
It's pleather, right?
Yeah.
And folks, it's a circular little pleather coin purse. That has a little hook on it, and so it can go onto my keychain.
It looks like a ball sack.
It does, but inside is my coin.
Does it fit just one coin?
It just fits one coin.
You can't put the blue one in with the red?
I probably could force both of them in there, but it's designed
but you
for
don't want
one
to do that.
coin. Yeah, very neat.
All right,
so
Bob, please explain to me why you have that.
Because I'm going to use
that is such an American thing to do. Of like, I'm going to create something that no one needs.
Yeah, well, because I have been carrying the same Captain America shield keychain for probably 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
My son gave it to me, for my birthday or something 6 years ago. And that little shield, finally the metal stress broke and fell off. And so I was like, well, I need a new fob on my keychain. And I'm like, what better fob for a keychain than my What Would Cap Do challenge coin?
I'm concerned though, Bob, because there's no way to officially close the top of that, and I'm concerned that it could slide out.
No, look.
Now, okay, listeners, what he's doing right now is he's taking the ball sack and he's making it upside down, and he's shaking it, which is really disturbing.
It's very.
The coin is not. He's dingling it.
It doesn't come out, Rick. The coin is snug as a bug in a rug.
Bob, never do that in my presence again.
So this is my new keychain fob that I'm going to have. Yeah. So,
I like that. All right. Good for you.
Yeah. So I don't have to carry it in my pocket, because sometimes I forget to change from one, put it in one pair of pants to a different, if I'm getting dressed up or something. And now I have it with me all the time, Rick.
Very nice. Speaking of the challenge coin. So when I was at OAX in Orlando last weekend, I met, a bunch of Cap fans and some people who I knew I had sent the coin to. And I challenged them, and they didn't have it.
Oh, those.
And then I was like, well, that means you have to buy the drinks. Yeah. And they're like, and there's an open bar tonight. And I was like, well, there's an after party. And then some of the creators like Dan Jurgens and others I had seen, and I was like, I don't think I gave you the new version, so here you go.
That was nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. Did I not do that for John Beatty? John, if you are listening, please ping me. If I have not given you the red coin, please let me know and I will send one out to you. All right, about getting back to can we get back to what's in that coin? We went on a tangent. We were talking about what was in the circle on the cover.
Yeah.
And what is it?
It's Bullseye.
It is.
It's Bullseye. Yeah.
And he's holding.
What is that called?
A sai.
SAI.
Yes. Sai. Yeah. Which is a little disturbing because that was the weapon of Elektra, and he killed Elektra using her own weapon.
Yeah.
So there is something here. So it does say plus the return of Bullseye. Now, here's an interesting fact. When we say the return of Bullseye, Bullseye's a very notable villain in the Marvel Universe. Right? Like, I think very few people who read Marvel Comics don't know that villain. And most associate him with Daredevil, right? Well, interesting enough about Bullseye is that, he first appeared in 1976 in Daredevil. He was introduced in issues 131 and 132. And then he had been in off and on in Daredevil in 77, 1979. And then Frank Miller took over in 1979, and he brought Bullseye, up to like major league status. And as I said, he had actually ended up killing Elektra, which was Daredevil's love at the time. And he had been, he had only been in Daredevil comics up until this point. Okay. He had only been in 19 issues of Daredevil. The last time we saw Bullseye was in Daredevil 200, which came out in 1983. So that's like 7 years ago.
Yeah.
Right. That Bullseye is just not around. So the fact that Mark Gruenwald brought back Bullseye was actually really cool. And we look at this story now and we're like, oh yeah, Bullseye's a cool villain. He's got a unique power set, and he's associated with Daredevil. It's cool to see him here. But at the time when this story came out, it was he wasn't well known.
Yeah.
Outside of Daredevil fans.
That's pretty cool. I didn't know that.
That's my thing, Bob. I like to bring knowledge to when we do these episodes.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else on the cover you want to go over?
No, I think we should probably progress.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
it does have the trade dress of at the top. It says Streets of Poison, right? And then Poison has like a splatter behind it, and it that is something that they're doing because again, this is a bi-weekly book coming out over the summer. This has a cover date of July 1990, but release date of May 15th. So basically Streets of Poison started in May and then found its way through June, 2 issues, and July, 2 issues, and then went into August. So there is a backup story because that's how they did this. They had different artists so that they could keep on schedule, but we're not getting into that just as we did in the last one. So this story is called Afterblow, and the writer, as I mentioned, Mark Gruenwald, penciler Ron Lim, inker Danny Belandi, and then the others we have colorist Steve Busalato, letterer Joe Rosen, editor Ralph Macchio.
Do it.
Excellent. All right, Bob. Let's get to the first page. I'm actually going to pull out my handy dandy copy here that I have my personal collection from when this was brand new, all those many years ago. I guess 33 years ago, 34 years, 33 years ago. Yeah. And it's still in really good condition. And just so we know, we left off, there was a cliffhanger last issue, and it was Cap who is on this mission to really fight against the drug problem in his local town because Fabian, who's been kind of like a mechanic and an engineer and helper for him for quite some time, he's now on this new drug called ice, and it's kind of like angel dust type of thing, right? And so Cap really had his eyes open to the issues of drug problem in the United States and did some research. He was like, man, I need to do something about this. And so he goes to a supplier's warehouse and he's in this building and he comes across somebody, I think it was called Napalm. Is that right? And
Right.
Napalm's like, hey, I've got one trick and here it is. And he goes and he hits the detonator button and then there's a big explosion. Here we are opening up this comic, gigantic splash page, one big panel on the opening page, and we see a warehouse on fire. Big explosion. The roof and sides are on fire. The windows have been blown out. And we see John Jameson, who was kind of pretending to be Punisher, I guess, when
Right.
Cap
Yeah.
left the booth with
Yeah.
or left the van with two of the narcs in there, essentially. And he was supposed to sit and wait. And then he's looking out the window and he's like, holy. Inside this warehouse walks the Star Spangled Avenger, acting on a tip that it is a major supply depot for Manhattan's illicit drug trade. Outside in a van waits John Jameson, his steadfast aide de camp. Then, without warning, the night sky explodes. What? What? You looked at me. Should I have said aide de camp?
I thought that was an awful fancy way of saying it, right?
I was going fancy.
Yeah, I like that about you.
I
Yeah.
appreciate it. Next page. John Jameson gets out of the van, and the fire you could see is like lit on his body. He's glowing. Cap's in there. I got to. No. Cap's job is to play hero. My job is to stay out of trouble and coordinate contingency operations. So he gets on the phone. Peggy, Jameson, priority blue, 18th and 11th. Get the police and fire departments here ASAP. Cap? He may have been caught in an explosion. Don't know the cause. Stay put and don't do anything foolish, John. I'll get a backup Avenger there as soon as I can. Potter out. So then she gets on the computer and she punches up the Avengers,
I guess roster, right?
roster. Thank you.
Yeah.
That was the word I'm looking for. So she says, punch up the actives. Bob, you want to take us through that? Can you read
Sure.
that?
Yeah. So it says in order as they appear on the screen. Captain America on assignment, Manhattan. Quasar, off-world. Circe, personal business, French Riviera. She-Hulk, whereabouts unknown. Thor, off-world. Vision, personal business, Los Angeles. Black Widow, Manhattan.
Well, now hold on. No. So then she says, not promising. How about the reserves?
Right. Yeah. So Black Widow, Manhattan. Captain Marvel, New Orleans, Louisiana. Hellcat, San Francisco, California. Hercules, off-world. Moondragon. Moondragon, incommunicado, whereabouts unknown. And Star Fox, off-world.
Yeah, so that's interesting to me. She-Hulk just got whereabouts unknown. Moondragon got incommunicado, whereabouts unknown. So does that mean like they can get in touch with She-Hulk, but they just don't know where she is?
Yeah, he's not been checking in.
She-Hulk?
No, Moondragon.
Moondragon's a female.
Oh, you're right. You're right. I'm sorry. I'm not familiar with Moondragon. Moondragon incommunicado means not been checking in. You know?
Oh, yeah. I guess it's a military term.
Yeah, right. You have to check in periodically, you know?
Oh, so She-Hulk's checking in, but she's just not knowing where she's at.
Right. Yeah.
Moondragon's like, I don't got time for this.
Yeah, I got time for this. I'm busy.
All right.
Yeah.
Black Widow's the closest. I'll activate her emergency signaler, see if she responds. There's also a certain non-Avenger that I bet Cap would want me to notify. Next page. Elsewhere in Manhattan. And her phone rings, Bob. And it's Rachel. And she's in bed and she's like, who in the... Hello? Diamondback? Peggy Carter. Our mutual friend may be in trouble. A warehouse on 18th and 11th. Jameson is on the scene. Huh? Oh, thanks, Miss Carter. Thanks. Cap. And she pulls back the covers. 18th and 11th, 15 minutes later. And there's Diamondback showing up in a trench coat and a hat to kind of hide her disguise. And she comes walking up. John? Diamond? Cap? No sign of him. He may be still in there. Till the firemen get the blaze under control, they can't get anywhere near to even check for survivors. Cap? And she gets tears in her eyes. I love this panel.
Yeah, it is a good one, right? It's very emotional. You can tell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we cut to some of those punks that we saw in the last issue where they were, at the crime scene, right? What do you make of this, lowlife? Think Napalm just got antsy? No, man. Nate wouldn't blow unless he could have hoisted someone who was onto us. The fat man slobs? Probably. I'm going to report this to the boss. Then I think it's time we turned up the heat on the fat man's crackerjacks. And then, so John Jameson is holding Rachel, looks like she needs to be consoled. She has her head in his chest. Easy, Diamond. You know as well as what a tough customer Cap is. He's been in worse scraps than this and walked away. Didn't know she cared this much about him. Excuse me. This a private dance or can anyone join in? And they turn around and who is it, Bob?
Oh my goodness, it's Cap.
It is. And he's standing there with no worse for wear. And then Rachel just goes right into his chest and hugs him really strongly. Cap, oh, I'm so glad you're okay. Had us worried, man. And Cap goes, me too. And then he bends over and gives a big old lip lock to Rachel.
And she is shocked.
Her eyes are wide open.
Yeah.
He's like, what?
Like I would be if Cap kissed me.
Did he just do what I thought he did? Cap, you feeling okay? Never felt better. How'd you get out of there? We turn the page and we get a little recap. I would say it's a flashback, but it's not because it's not something we've seen before, but it is going through. Cap's kind of taking us through, and you see the scenes as he's describing them. The hard way. I was on the top floor, having gone in through the skylight. I was expecting whoever was in there to come running at the sound of the break-in. The only one who showed was a kid calling himself Napalm. He had something the size of a cigarette pack in his hand. It was a detonator. The instant I realized he was going to use it, I turned and dashed towards the nearest window. I didn't quite make it before the shock wave of the explosion hit me. I dimly recall a sensation of flying. And that's the last thing I knew until I woke up a few minutes ago, across the street from the explosion on the rooftop of another building. I'm a lucky so-and-so, huh? I don't get it. Why would somebody blow himself up just to try to get to you? Takes all kinds. Come on, let's go. I'm in dire need of a shower. That doesn't seem like Cap, right?
It really does. Yeah.
Woo. Don't you want the paramedics to give you a quick once-over? Check for some smoke inhalation and stuff? Not necessary, John. I've never felt better in my life. And he has a smile on his face. Get in. You coming, Diamondback? So they're driving away in the van. And you know how you could tell they're driving away, Bob?
It's got the telltale exhaust, my friend.
Yeah. What happened to the two dealers we persuaded to leave us to this big supply dump? I let them go, Cap. I figured we'd gotten out of them all we're going to. It'll be interesting to see if they go back to their trade after we put the fear of the Punisher into them. No doubt they will. But at least they'll have to find themselves a new supplier before they can do any more dealing. You've been awfully quiet, Diamondback. What's up? Nothing. Just relieved you're okay, Cap. And they're going down the street, but we see in the shadows, high up at the top of one of the buildings, somebody on the side of the building, a la Spider-Man. And who is it, Bob?
Well, I think we're led to believe that this is Black Widow. It's her silhouette and the Black Widow hourglass motif on her back.
Hours later, inside the penthouse executive suite of the Fisk building, and we see the escaped Bullseye. Now, he's still in his clothing that he, escaped from prison in, and he's sitting on top of the secretary's desk, and he has her in a headlock with her head, and she's just crying. And outside of the door of an office, "You're new here. I understand that. You don't recognize me. You don't realize I'm a man who is not to be trifled with. You have no idea how I got past that Goonie boys to make it in this far into the man's lair. Now, all I want you to do is..." And then coming through the door, Bob, who is it?
It's Wilton Fisk. The Kingpin
AKA?
himself. Yeah, Kingpin.
And he, what is he wearing?
So he's got, he's got those lovely purple pants and a white jacket with.
I would say they're magenta.
Okay, magenta. Fair
right.
Enough. Yeah.
They're not grape colored. They're purplish.
Yeah, purplish. Right. Yeah. Magenta, fuchsia. That in that category.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Fuchsia's good. I'll take fuchsia.
Yeah. He's got a lavender vest on and an orange ascot around his neck.
He's colorful.
And he is. He's a colorful character. Yeah, I like his sense of confidence. His fashion sense.
Yeah,
he's got a lot of confidence.
Release her at once. So you are in, Mr. Fisk. Funny thing, a lot of the people around here were under the erroneous impression you wouldn't want to see me. Let her go. Come into my office. See, Toots? I told you he wanted to see me. I've forgotten how much I miss this place, rotting in prison in all these eons. Which reminds me, what's the story, Fisk? I'm the best hitman you ever had. Why'd you never bust me out of stir? Or is that beyond your powers these days? Nothing is beyond my power, Mr. Poindexter. I simply felt that if you weren't capable of getting yourself out of prison, you no longer had what it takes to be any use to me. Now, then what can I do for you? To begin with, you can get rid of that ridiculous-looking woman skulking about in the shadows there. And he pushes his thumb to, who is that?
That would be Typhoid Mary.
And how would you describe to the listeners what Typhoid Mary looks like?
Wow. She has a certain 90s look to her, Rick.
Hmm?
And by a 90s look, I mean she's got sort of a big reddish hair, a very 90s looking big hair, right? And
But it's
she's got
almost,
her
but it's, wouldn't you say it's like almost like not dreadlocks, but
it's tight curls. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Like a ragged, like a no, not like a Raggedy Ann doll, but yeah, they're it's not dreadlocks, but they're
Okay.
long tight curls. Yeah, there's a
But
word for
not
this.
the type of hair you would typically see on a Caucasian.
True, true. Yeah, yeah, and it is red hair, so it's definitely a style I've seen before. I just can't the name. I'm sure one of our listeners will chime in and tell us what the name of this hairdo is.
Okay.
Let's hope so. So she's got uh she's got some facial makeup, right, Rick? So the right side of her face is painted white, and the left side is unadorned, and she's got bright red lipstick on. She's wearing a purple top. I mean, I'm again a fuchsia top, right? And then bikini briefs, black bikini briefs. So it's an odd looking ensemble.
And then she also has kind of like shoulder pads. And then she
Yeah,
has swords hanging on each side of her, like, harness on each side of her hips.
yeah. And shoulder pads were big in the 90s, man.
Yeah, but these are actually really big.
Yeah.
These are not the sport coat high shoulder pads. These are
Right.
like
Yeah.
armor shoulder
Yeah.
pads.
Good
Yeah.
point. Yeah.
And then did you mention her face?
I did.
Oh,
Yes.
half painted.
Half
Okay.
painted, half not. Yeah.
Okay. Mary, if you would. Got to tell you something, Mr. Fisk. Your taste in woman is really going to the dogs. Now, I'm turning the page, half expecting her to like turn and like do something to him after that
Yeah.
insult, but she
Right.
didn't.
She didn't. Right.
I'm a busy man, Poindexter. Get to your point of your visit. And he's got a cigar lit with the smoke coming up. Why? Isn't it obvious? I want to sign up as your number one boy again. Well, you're not saying anything. Come on. There must be something you want a man of my talents to do. Yes, there is. I want you to get some dental work and some presentable clothes. When that is done, we'll talk. See my secretary for the arrangements. Hey, thanks. And he puts his hand out to shake. And Wilson Fisk just looks at him. So then
Rejected.
he turns and he leaves out the office. And then Typhoid Mary is there. So that is the famous Bullseye, hmm? What will you do with him? I'll think of something. Next page, we see Cap, and I guess he got that shower he was after because he's drying his hair with a towel, and he's got his mask down, but he still has his uniform on and the shield on his back. And he's walking up to Fabian and Rachel, who are sitting at a table having something, looks like a tray from the mess hall, right? Because,
Yeah. Yeah.
and they're in the Avengers headquarters. Okay, I'm set. For what? To get back out on the streets, start following up on what we've learned. What have we learned? That whoever's behind whatever was in that warehouse has been willing to die to protect his secrets. Oh, hi, Peggy. Sorry to interrupt, but I just wanted to tell you that the Tucson House people have accepted Fabian into the drug rehab program. He's there right now. Great. Okay, let's move out. But we don't have a plan or anything. We'll think of one as we go along. That doesn't sound like Cap.
Sure doesn't.
Later on 164th Street, and there's somebody just standing guard outside of a dilapidated building with boarded up windows. What's he singing, Bob?
I don't recall that song, Rick.
No, I
Do
was
you
really
know?
hoping you would sing it.
I'm not going to sing it because I don't want to be taken the wrong way. I don't want you to shake your
Oh,
body on.
way, hey, 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 shake your body on the floor tonight. Make my day.
Is this isn't Gloria Estefan and
No.
no? What is this?
I don't
Is this
remember.
not a real
I
song?
don't know. CNC Music Factory. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
Make
Gruenwald's
my
usually
day.
good about
Make
putting real
my day.
lyrics. So yeah,
Make my day. You know that
I'm,
song. Come on. Make
I'm
my
gonna,
day.
I'm gonna have
Oh,
to look this
yeah.
one up.
Shake your body. Come on.
Folks, if you could just see Rick Rubin right now.
Bobbing my head. And then there's some guy who I don't recognize. Maybe is this one of
Low
the
Life.
guys? Huh?
That's Low
That's Low
Life.
Life. Okay.
Yeah.
I was just about to say, looks like one of the punks. There it is, my target. Imagine that, a crack house in a ritzy neighborhood like this. Put the pedal to the metal, pick up some speed, and the 50 pounds of plastique attached to the engine of this baby is gonna go boom. I hope he got out of the van first. There's no picture of him doing so.
Yeah, he's jumping out of the van.
Right? I don't see him jumping out of the van.
I think that's him going, "Aye!"
No, that's the guy who was singing in the front.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess you're right. Yeah. Well, hopefully he did jump out of the van.
Yeah.
Or not.
Next page, the Fisk building that night. And that's totally out of that panel is totally out of like a Frank Miller Fisk building in the pages of Daredevil. Suit fits like a glove, Mr. F. But this false tooth needs some getting used to. Then get used to it. I have an assignment for you. Oh, yeah? One of my crack houses in Harlem was blown up a few hours ago by a garbage truck carrying explosives. 6 of my people were injured. 2 died. 8 hours before that, a Lower West Side warehouse exploded. According to my police contacts, evidence that illicit narcotics were being stored there was found in the warehouse wreckage. The narcotics were not mine. I need to know 2 things. Who is bringing illegal drugs into my city without my knowledge? And who attacked one of my supply houses? No offense, Mr. Fisk, but who do I look like? Columbo? And he's sitting there picking his teeth with a little toothpick. I'm not an investigator. I'm take the job or remove yourself from my sight. All right. I'll take it. And he starts walking away. But I got to tell you, this is a big waste of my talents. And he tosses the toothpick over his shoulder, not even looking. And the toothpick lands directly in the middle of his cigar that was in his hand and sticks it. That takes some talent there, Bob.
Indeed.
Soon outside, we see Bullseye in a trench coat walking up to a building, but he's being seen through some sort of fancy binoculars. Batman must be trying to bust my chops with this. If he doesn't have 10 private dicks on the payroll. And we cut to Black Widow, and she is hanging underneath a gargoyle on the outside of a building very, very high up. And she's wearing that classic outfit that you described from the cover. And she is holding binoculars. And she has a thought balloon that is one of surprise and very expressed emotion. And it's him. Now, Bob, for those who aren't big Daredevil fans like I am, I mentioned, the fact that Bullseye was introduced in Daredevil, and he had spent from 76 to 83 being a big thorn in Bullseye's side. Now, during those Frank Miller issues and afterwards when Klaus Janson was doing the art, Black Widow was very, very prevalent in the comics. Now, I'll even go back further. So Black Widow was a romantic interest of Daredevil, Matt Murdock, and then she actually became his partner. So she, back in the early 70s, we're talking Daredevil 81, she became in the monthly book of Daredevil. It actually ended up being, remember like there was a time where Captain America and the Falcon was the title?
Yeah.
Well, it was Daredevil and Black Widow.
Okay.
Was the title. And a lot of people don't know that. But yeah, so from 1971, for quite some time, like all the way, oh gosh, 75, like she was almost in it almost every single month. That's a long time.
Yeah.
And so Frank Miller brought her back in gosh, he Frank Miller didn't bring her back. She actually came back like in the 150s. And then Frank Miller, he took over in 159, and then, or was it 158? Anyway, he brought her into the story that featured Daredevil in the hand. I'm sorry, Daredevil and his mentors, Stick and so on, going up against the Hand, which is like the Japanese, ninjas and so on. It was a fantastic story, amazing story. And so she was prevalent in that. And so she fought up against Bullseye, and again, Bullseye killed Elektra. So and Bullseye's been gone for all these years. To see him come back was a big shock to Black Widow here. So just painting a little bit of a context and picture. Yeah. So then we cut to someone else's binoculars, and it's Captain America, and he's on top of a building in downtown, and he is looking over the warehouse that he was in where it blew up. Anything? Not yet. I know I'm new at this, but I thought criminals only return to the scene of the crime in the movies. If you're bored, you're welcome to go join John in the van. Or no, I'm having fun. So what's with your big interest in the drug scene all of a sudden? Anything to do with Fabian's problem? Mm-hmm. Something he said really bothered me too. He said, since the super soldier serum in me could be considered a drug, am I not a walking endorsement for better living through drug use? I never thought like that. Cap, the more time I spend with you, the more I think that explosion shook you up a lot more than you let on. That sudden kiss you gave me, your weird conversation tangents, your eagerness to cap off the high eagle, spotted unidentified. I, when I first read this, Bob, I thought it said cap wolf, but it's car wolf. Car wolf to high eagle, spotted unidentified man entering the building through a window on the far side of the block. Over. Let's go. So next page, we see Cap flying the Sky Cycle. And I don't think we saw that on the cover, so I think we kind of talked about the Sky Cycle. But if you don't know what it is, go back to episode 170. And he's flying, and he's got Diamondback holding on the back of him. She's seated like a motorcycle, right? And she's on the back, and she's got her arms around him. He's let go of me, Diamond. Huh? I'm getting off here. And he jumps off, and she has to like reach forward to grab the controls on the Sky Cycle. Wait, you never showed me how to pilot this thing. Cap! And he's just diving towards the warehouse. I'm going to hit that building. Got to pull up. Pull up. Oh, luckily she does. And next page. What the bleep is wrong with him? Managed to level this thing off, but how do you slow it down? Get it to land. Cap, I'm going to get you for this. Hey, I'm off balance again. So he turns around. Someone snagged this buggy with a cable line. Too dark to make out who it is. Reeling their way up fast. I'm having a hard time, enough time just keeping this thing under me without an uninvited passenger. Sorry, pal. And who is it, Bob?
Oh my God, it's Black Widow.
And she's reeling up pretty quickly, but she's greeted in the face with Rachel's kick. Did I drop him? Where'd he? But Black Widow uses that momentum. She swings up and she kicks both feet into Rachel's face, a la what we're seeing on the cover.
Yes.
But we have a little bit of a different angle. So we get a little bit more of Rachel.
We certainly do, Rick.
How would you describe this panel, Bob?
I would not, because this may become public knowledge. to my beloved. So.
Oh, okay. Next page, and we get 3 large panels of Rachel and Black Widow fighting each other. So Black Widow lands on the sky cycle, and she's got her knees bent and her right hand down and her left hand cocked. The name is Black Widow. This is Captain America's vehicle. What have you done with him? Black Widow? I heard of her. She's a Soviet defector, a rogue agent of some sort. What's she doing here? What she want with Cap? Hiya! And she goes to kick, and Black Widow, of course, just blocks it. And then she elbows Rachel to the face. Now, Bob, this is a cool page, right? Like, these are big panels.
Yeah.
We got full body shots, and it's when heroes sometimes get mistaken and they fight each other.
Yeah, that happens.
Well, we are.
Yeah,
Black Widow and Rachel.
Yeah, they could be friends.
They could be. Why aren't they?
Take a minute to ask questions and listen.
Stop and listen. So, next page, we see Cap in the warehouse, and he's running around in the dark. There's not much left of this building except its iron skeleton of a huge mound of debris at the a light, a flashlight beam. I think I found my man, whoever he is. And it's Bullseye, and he's got a shovel in one hand and a flashlight in the other. This is a total waste, as if there's going to be any clues left in this disaster area. But if I want to get back into good graces with I almost said with the fat man, with the man, I've got to at least make an effort. See how close I can get without blast. Send a piece of crud over the edge. Maybe he won't notice it. But he does. Makes a noise. What was that?
I don't know.
Probably lost the element of surprise by now. Better move in as quickly as I can, regardless of the noise. Oh, great. The light flicked off. I didn't hear any sudden movement. He's got to be around here somewhere. Well, look what we have here. And Bullseye notices Cap. Next page, we get back to the chick fight. Sure, you're an Avenger spy lady, and I'm Princess Di. Now, who's Princess Di, Bob? Back in 1990?
Oh my goodness. I just got done watching The Crown's final season, Rick. So Princess Di is on my mind.
Yeah?
Yeah, right? Princess Diana. Definitely a cultural celebrity back then.
What is that, a documentary?
No, it's like a docudrama. So
okay.
Roughly based on real life, but fictionalized, dialogues and things like that around real events. So it's really a great show.
I gotcha. Yeah. I saw, speaking of which, I saw a documentary last night on beavers.
Did you really?
Yeah. It was the best damn show I ever saw.
On beavers.
I'm going to let that sink in. Now, get your what is it? Glasshost? Off my ride?
Glasnost.
What is a Glasshost?
That was one of 2 major domestic and foreign policies initiated by Michael Gorbachev.
Okay, I regret I
Mikhail
asked.
Gorbachev.
Right.
Yeah.
Not until you tell me what you did with the captain. And she kicks her in the solar plexus. And she goes, oof, because, she had the wind knocked out of her. I'm so busy holding on trying to block her blows. I didn't have time to go for one of my trick diamonds. Bob, would you try to block her blow?
I wouldn't block her blow at all.
No?
I'd welcome it. I'd embrace it, Rick.
I've got a tear gas filled in one of my left hip. If I just had a hand free to go for it. And then next thing you know, the sky cycle is going towards the river, Bob. Whoa. We're beginning to lose altitude fast. We're going to... Widow, chill out a second and help me steer this thing. We're heading straight towards the Hudson. What must we do? I don't know. And they crash. Here, do it again. I'm not hearing a word. What the hell are you doing? I just see a funny looking face. I just see a
splooch.
oh no, the ladies got splooged on.
Yeah, they got splooched.
Last page. Last page. It is a half page splash. The top of the page has 5 panels, and then the bottom is one big panel, which is really cool. And so Cap again is in the dark. He's going through the debris. He has his shield, and he's thinking to himself, I know he's here. He knows I'm here. I'm moving about. He's holding still. I'm Captain America. He's in big, huh? And then we see Bullseye throwing one hand, he's throwing the lit flashlight. The other, he's throwing that it's not so much of the shovel, it's kind of like a half shovel, half spade, because it's not as long as a shovel, but it's shorter, but it has that, that pointed metal spade part. And he's throwing both at the same time. And we go to the half splash page, and Cap's putting up his shield, and he's thinking, blinded, light aimed right at my eyes. And he of course puts his shield up towards the light that's coming at him, and he deflects the shield. But what is not being deflected is that giant pointy spade going at his mid solar plexus.
Classic misdirection.
Continued in 2 weeks. Wowzer, Bob. Talk about a cliffhanger. So we have Cap going up against Bullseye for the first time, and he's about to get impaled. We have Black Widow and Rachel fighting each other, and they just got splooged and are in the Hudson, right?
Yeah.
These are some serious cliffhangers, Bob.
Yeah. We don't know the status of any of these people now.
Right. All right. What'd you think of this issue?
All right, it's getting good, Rick. We're getting good. We're seeing some Cap's a little bit off,
He is. Something's weird.
Quite right. Yeah, very impulsive, and but I don't know. He's out there getting it done, and it's interesting to see Diamondback and Black Widow, going at it. I just had a moment.
You did. You just totally had a...
I froze up there for a second. In my own little world. So yeah, I mean, interesting to see how that's going to get resolved as well.
Yeah, and I do like. I like where this story's going, and I like the pacing. I like the way that it's going back and forth between stories. With Kingpin and so on. I think Mark Gruenwald, he's doing an excellent job as far as the writing, and then I like Ron Lim's layouts. I think Ron Lim is telling a good story with his art by pacing and the pages and what you see on the next page and so on. And he's certainly paying some fan service, right, with some of the imagery that he's doing as well. I wouldn't mind owning some art from this story personally. Some really cool pages. So speaking of that, let's get into favorite panel.
Okay. Yeah, I think you go first, right? Am I right?
I do. I do go first. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go with in my comic. It's page 15, and it's when Black Widow is hanging, and she sees Bullseye, and she with the binoculars, and she says him. I really love this panel. I think Ron Lim and Danny Belandi are doing their best Frank Miller and Klaus Janson. I think the art style is very reminiscent and of that. I'd like you're slightly looking up at Black Widow, and the gargoyle there, the detail in the stone that you see, there, and I love that classic outfit, and the way she's got her toes on the building, and she's hanging. Because we sometimes forget that she has the ability to stick to things. At least during this time period, she did. And I don't know. It's just, the shadows. It's just really well executed by Ron Lim and Danny Belandi. So that's my favorite panel.
Nicely done.
How about you?
Yeah, I'm shocked, Rick, that you went with that, even though it was a great choice. Because I'm going to go again. I'm working off a digital book here, so I'm going with page 5, that 3/4 splash, where Cap recounts how he escaped the building once Napalm, did the whole flame
Mm-hmm.
thing, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that's just an amazing 3/4 splash, with the left side of the page being the right side of Cap's face, and
Mm-hmm.
the right side of the page having a series of 4 miniature panels that outline, the series of events that led to Cap's getting blown out of the building
Mm-hmm.
from the explosion. It's really neat, particularly the way Cap has been rendered here. He's got
Mm-hmm.
soot on his face and the shadows, and it's really cool. It's a great page.
Yeah, and it's good actions panels as well. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
excellent choice. I wouldn't mind owning. I don't
That
own
would
any Ron Lim
that would be an
published art.
awesome,
Yeah,
amazing page. Yeah.
yeah. All right, what are you putting on a t-shirt?
Ooh, t-shirt. I think I'm gonna have to go. Um, oh, I'm gonna go with the Kiss.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah. And there's a little method here, right? A little method to my madness. I like quirky stuff, and this reminds me of there's that certain genre of art called pop art, that started to
You
become
don't
more
say.
popular. Yeah, in like the 2000s, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this has that feel to it for me.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of pop art images of like men and women kissing, and this one sort of does that for me. So I like it. I think it'd look great on a t-shirt, maybe rendered with a little bit of, what is that sort of I don't know, sort of newsprint sort of printing. You know what I'm talking about? Like the
I have
dots.
no idea.
What's it called? Like there's a technique for that, when they print it that way. But anyway, I think it looked great on a shirt.
Okay.
What about yourself?
T-shirt worthy. I'm gonna go to page 16 on my original copy here, and that's the where Cap jumps off the sky cycle.
Oh, I'm getting out of here.
And it's a nice action, where Cap's jumping out towards
Mm-hmm.
you, and you have
Yeah,
Rachel in the background yelling Cap. That would look cool on a t-shirt,
it
like
would.
just jumping out at you.
Yeah, yeah. Indeed, it would. All right, you got anything the time capsule worthy?
I'm gonna go with the very last page, because that is the first meeting between Captain America and Bullseye. So that is noteworthy in going in my
Nice.
time capsule.
Interesting.
You?
Um, did I use Sky Cycle last time? I can't remember.
I don't know.
Well, I'm going to use it again, because I'm not a big fan of the Sky Cycle. I think its first appearance was like in Hawkeye #1, also written by Gruenwald. So it's definitely a Gruenwald invention, this Sky
Mm-hmm.
Cycle.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very frequently used in the late 80s, early 90s. It really does scream 80s and 90s, the Sky Cycle, particularly
Okay.
that 80s decade. So I that's going to go in my time capsule, just because it's so, it just, yeah, it's 80s.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Go with that. Next episode, we're ticking off the 2024 bucket list of things that we wanted to do. We've already done a few of that by Streets of Poison, and we did a Cap America annual. And we're going to be doing the Medusa Effect one shot. I know you've been
Oh, I have.
begging to do this one
I
for
have.
a while
I
now.
love this book. Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
it's interesting because normally I don't like to go back to back like the same decade
Mm-hmm.
as far as stories. Like we're doing Streets of Poisons 1990s, Medusa Effect one shot came out in 1994, but it is a period story. Right? It takes place during World War II. So
Right. Yeah.
I feel like that's a way we can get around this, because we're kind of going back into
All
classic,
right.
time
Fair enough.
period
Fair enough. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
written by Roy Thomas. And yeah, looking forward to getting into that with you next episode.
Yeah. I'm excited.
Excellent. All right, Bob. I think we covered it all. You have anything left?
I certainly do know. Do you want to see my coin purse again?
I don't. Please don't dingle that. Please don't do that.
You want to take a picture for folks so they can see my coin purse?
Yes.
Here we
Yes.
go.
Let's Oh, I have to do a screenshot.
Hold on.
There we go. I got it.
All right. Awesome.
All right. He's Bob Lucius. I'm Rick Verbanis, and you have been listening to another episode of the Captain America Comic Book Fans Podcast.